And through the oratory choirs of hell, I could hear a lullaby singing to me. Oh, Gabe, join my crew and screw over your fellow City Hall members. You know they don't deserve anything good in their time on Earth. I was on page 127 out of 411 of Gabriel's journal. His journal began record starting June 15th, 2019. His betrayal of City Hall began on the 14th of June, right as the fair opened, preluding the Mayor Xavier's homicide. I was beyond mortified at the contents written on paper that I found in the journal. I couldn't believe the new mind-boggling information I was learning. Given the circumstances my life was being placed into, I was happily being distracted by all of these activities without a care in the world. Now let's take a step back from this amalgamation of information and news stories and talk about what's happened the past few days. After luckily escaping Mr. Franklin's cursed home and getting back home safely with all of our new information, my days went a little like this. Wake up, go to school, come back home, read up on information picked up throughout our investigations on Wednesday, eat, and sleep. When I was at school or in bed, I'd be thinking about the information gathered during the investigations. My grades were plummeting before the first full week of school ended, but I honestly couldn't care less. Now that the weekend hit, September rolled around and I was still grounded. I knew this was going to happen, but guess what? My mom hasn't found my phone yet, so joke's on her. Luckily, I had several new things to distract me this weekend, besides playing video games like usual, even though I really couldn't. Information and writing my new books. I knew I had made significant progress on my first book and was planning on publishing it very soon. My second book was already in the works, and I knew that this series that I created was going to sell big time. And let's just say my mom didn't enjoy the new lifestyle I was indulging in. She threatened to homeschool me and lock me inside the house if I attended another city hall meeting or continued this behavior. She's just as worried sick as everybody else in the city, but even more so. She was thinking I was going to get murdered, but that's complete baloney. I'll just get myself put into protective services to prevent any sort of murder from happening if that chance arises. My school life with my new fraud has remained relatively the same. I found out that on the day I was planning to meet Nathan in the basement, he was sick and couldn't make it to school. He and I are still on good terms, which is great because as long as I can keep my fraud, the future isn't looking so bleak. And so far, the Clyde killers haven't done anything notable at school yet, but I was expecting that to change. That group has stayed silent for the most part. Now it was Sunday night. It had been a week since Mayor Xavier's confirmed death. I hadn't gotten any calls or letters I hadn't received any calls or letters from City Hall, but I had been seeing Adeline a lot lately. She had been constantly visiting Greenfield High School after school every day, checking out the place and talking to people. I was beginning to finally like Adeline again. She had changed from being a brat with no respect or mannerisms to a respectful, patient girl. I could finally see a reason why anybody would want to hang out with her, let alone date her, specifically talking about Christopher. Another issue that had arisen in the past week as Greenfield High School began unraveling its cheer team. Many of them supposedly belonged within the Clyde killers, and as stated by Nathan, they were just as bad, if not worse, than the bully group. And I believe that narrative. The school's very first football game of the year was being hosted on the night of September 5th, and I was going to go with Clyde and Adeline. The cheer team of Greenfield High School focused more on harassment and more specifically wanting to hook up with any boy they found interest in. That seemed bad in and of itself, and I was told that the cheer team had similar intentions to the Clyde killers, which wasn't good at all. But I wasn't worried too much about the cheer team. I was too focused on this plethora of news I had been feeding into my brain. My focus was interrupted, however, when somebody knocked on the front door in the evening hours on Sunday night. Leo, somebody is here for you, my dad called from downstairs. I was beginning to rotate my main schedule, write and read. I grabbed all my papers and rushed downstairs. I had a good idea who it was. I'll let you answer the door, my dad said as he backed away into the garage. I opened the door and was greeted by Clyde and Adeline. Oh, hello there. Why did you guys come by today? I asked as I gestured Clyde and Adeline inside. Nothing, just wanted to chat with you for a bit, Adeline replied as she glided inside. Compared to the last time Adeline came by my house, she was dressed quite casually in her usual style. Sit down, Leo and Adeline, Clyde said, already seated on the couch. I sat down right next to Clyde. Adeline sat next to me. So how have the past few days been? Clyde asked as he fixed his posture on the couch. They've been good. Just been reading up on all those papers we collected on our investigations. I replied, smiling as I reminisced about my achievements over the past week. I heard about those investigations, and the 10th investigation at Mr. Franklin's home. Did it look the same as when we were last there? Adeline asked. Mostly, just a lot more ruined, but it otherwise looked and felt the same. I was slowly moving my fingers over the papers that were still in my hands. Can I take a look at the papers? Adeline asked in a persuading manner. I knew Adeline was going to ask that question. I reluctantly gave her the papers as she examined them lightly. Wow. Adeline was at a loss for words after she looked through the papers. She handed them back to me shortly after. Surprised we got a hold of those papers? Clyde shot a sly smirk at Adeline as he grabbed the papers from my hands. Can I read these for a bit myself? Yes, and I'll grab Gabe's journal from upstairs. You can take a look at that. I rushed upstairs into my room to grab the journal. My window that was still open exposed a little remaining outdoor light still available into my bedroom. A dense fog had settled into the city, making an eerie vibe outdoors and a cozy setting indoors. I closed my window before coming downstairs, Gabriel's journal in hand. A leather case, huh? Clyde asked as he was staring at the exotic journal he hadn't seen in light yet. I didn't realize that the case was really leather. It was a nice journal, and that was something anybody could say. I handed Clyde the journal, and he immediately opened to the first page and began reading it. I would say the first page was the most innocent page out of the whole journal. This was written when Gabriel was still working for City Hall, Clyde muttered as he flipped to another random page in the journal. Keep going, it gets worse. It gets a whole lot worse, I said. Clyde flipped to about the halfway mark in the journal. He began reading the contents. I hadn't reached the halfway point of the journal yet, so whatever he was reading was content I hadn't read yet. Leo, you need to see this, Clyde said in a concerned tone. I leaned over toward Clyde, the journal open in his hands. He was flipped open to page 199. Die, 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 God, Clyde recited as his eyes were bulging. I peered over to the content Clyde was reading. Every word on the journal page was spaced by a large and unusual margin. Die, 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 die. Leo Torres, Clyde Smith, Adeline Lynn, Mayor Xavier, Joshua Franklin. God. Die. Is this some sort of death note? I scraggly asked. Clyde flipped through pages 201 to 238, each page having one word written on it, die. As he was flipping through, something came to mind, the panicked version of Clyde that revealed itself at Mr. Franklin's home that one night. I decided to ask Clyde about it while he was still flipping through the journal. Well, I swear on my life that I saw something that resembled the devil, hiding in the corner, quietly watching me in Joshua's bedroom. It felt so surreal that it made me believe in supernatural objects, but I knew it wasn't real. I had to be hallucinating, but I believe I wasn't. Clyde was visibly trembling as he was talking. I was thinking the same thing when I first saw the devil with my very own eyes, way back in April, I replied, memories flashing right before my eyes. I completely forgot Adeline was in the room when she snatched the journal from Clyde and began looking through it furiously. Leo, you gotta read this journal faster. The amount of secrets we could uncover would be endless, Adeline exclaimed, her eyes bulging with excitement. Hey, Mr. Torres, can we spend a few hours here? My dad, who was in the garage, yelled back, Stay as long as you want. We don't have anything planned. Thank you, Adeline yelled back as she began reading the journal contently. How long were you guys staying? I asked as Clyde began looking through the stack of papers that was once in Adeline's hands. Whenever we get finished with reading everything, Clyde began to focus intensely on the papers, most likely wanting to finish everything as quickly as possible. 10:59 p.m., September 1st, 2019. It seemed like an eternity that Clyde and Adeline were reading the journal and papers, both switching out every 30 minutes or so. When they finished reading everything, Adeline and Clyde both hadn't reached page 100 in the journal. They finished reading the papers, though. Done, Leo, Adeline yelled as I was in my room typing out my manuscript. I stopped typing on my typewriter and began walking downstairs. I saw Adeline halfway up the stairwell, probably coming up to knock on my door and tell me that they were finished. I walked into the living room. Clyde looked dead and half asleep. Adeline the complete opposite, filled with energy. So are you guys finished? I tapped on Clyde's shoulder, waking him up immediately. Yes. Clyde was yawning and stuttering aggressively, his speech slurred like crazy. Not finished with everything yet, but certainly finished for the night. Adeline began picking up a flurry of papers scattered almost everywhere on the couch, stacking them up neatly in her arms as she cleaned up. Clyde handed me the journal as he was beginning to leave. "Don't leave without me, Clyde." Adeline was still cleaning up all the papers when Clyde opened the front door. "I can't walk home, not in this fog." Clyde slowly shut the front door and, like a zombie, walked back to the couch and collapsed. "Get up, Clyde. You're lying on one of the papers," Adeline yelled as she tugged on his shirt. Clyde rolled onto the hardwood floor, acting asleep. Adeline grabbed the very last paper that was still on the couch. That paper turned out to be the one Clyde was lying on. Adeline handed it to me, the paper lightly torn in the corner. I thanked Adeline as she got Clyde up, and they both left the house. "So they're gone now, huh?" my dad asked, emerging from the garage he had been in for the past several hours. I nodded. "Don't worry, I'll get to bed in a jiffy." I rushed upstairs and back into my room. I wasn't going to bed. I was filled with energy, and I was going to use this to sprint through my book manuscript and have it finished by tomorrow morning, maybe get a few pages in on Gabriel's journal.